Right, so I've been mildly addicted to playing Swarm, and for some reason I decided to do the most YouTuber thing I could think of and make a tier list. First of all, I'm gonna start with all of the champions. Um, at least my opinion. Someone can disagree. Write a comment. I wanna know if someone else thinks differently. Order is arbitrary. Let's start with the first one, Zaya. She has a decent kit. She's very strong against single targets and bosses. Not that good against most of the AoE. She definitely does stand out at killing most bosses. Like, she can single-handedly take care of the horse that chases you down. She definitely can take care of all of the smaller ones. And yeah, she's really good at that. That's her strongest phase. She struggles with AoE when it comes to getting swarmed. And she's not that good against most of the final bosses. In particular, she's kind of weak against Belveth and Rek'Sai, those two. But other than that, she has her strong moments. She has her weak spots. Pretty decent champion. Next one is Briar. She doesn't seem that good when you initially unlock her, because she has such long cooldowns for her E, for her abilities in general. But the moment you start getting into the anima upgrades, oh my god, she is broken. She is so broken. You literally get level 2 on her innate ability, or innate weapon, and then you just press E whenever it goes off cooldown. And that's your entire game plan. And that's enough. That's straight up just enough. You don't need anything else. Occasionally dodge like frogs or something if you're playing on extreme, but she doesn't need anything else. She's so strong. Next we got ourselves Seraphine. I wanna say she's good in multiplayer, but even then her ranges are so limited. She's probably the weakest champion right now. She was decent on PvE, but I don't know what they did. She's just weak now. Maybe it's just that everyone else got better. She doesn't offer anything any other champ doesn't do. Her movement speed is nice, but the way she scales isn't that good. Her evolved base ability is decent. But until then, she's just not that good, and even late game she doesn't stand out. So Seraphine probably is the weakest character currently. Riven, she is good, but she doesn't have an OP phase. Like, yes, late game her shields become really strong. She is very fast, which is fun. Riven is very fun. But she doesn't stand out. She doesn't have like a point in time where I'm like, yeah, no other champ can do this. This is amazing. She is beyond broken right now. She doesn't have that. She gets her shields. She moves fast, but she is not necessarily stronger than other characters at any point. Very balanced character, very fun character, not over the top at any point against anything. Has a very weak early game, to be fair, also, until you get like a few points in her Q or an extra weapon. But after that, she does well. Ilaoi. On PvE, she was completely broken. Straight up. Absolutely. But now it's difficult to decide whether she still does have an OP phase. You get to the point where you can pretty much AFK, because you just have so many tentacles. You just build cooldown reduction, duration, and try to get as many tentacles out as possible, and then you can practically AFK. But her damage isn't that good, and her mobility is okay, I guess. She is good. She definitely has her strong points. She doesn't stand out as much as she did on PvE. On PvE, she did a lot more damage while also being tankier, I believe. There is nothing really that makes her stand out above the crowd anymore. Yeah, just a good champ, middle of the pack. Now Leona, as much as I don't want to say it, she is completely broken in multiplayer because she's completely unkillable. You can revive anyone as often as you want, but in single player on extreme, she struggles a lot. You have to kind of just go against the idea of the champion to kill, in particular, Aatrox and Belveth. To kill those two, you straight up just have to go against the idea of the champion. Yeah, you're just gonna hit kill screen time. She just is too weak for single player, too strong for multiplayer. She is like the dichotomy of you can play her alone, but you can't like do what Leona is meant to do alone. But in multiplayer, what she's meant to do is so strong that she just destroys. So there's that. Next up, we have Jinx. Decent. Doesn't stand out at any point. Was incredibly weak on PvE. Like, incredibly weak. But then they buffed her cooldowns. She can now move her during her during her base ability. Really good. Deals well with bosses in general. Can get out of a pinch. Once your cooldowns are improved, that helps as well. Like, you can just spam your first ability to get out of nearly everything. So, does well. You build her with bullet count, build around boomerang, stuff like that, and she does well. Aurora. I want to like her, but no. Just no. Her ultimate is just not good. I barely ever see a point in using it. Maybe sometimes during Belveth trials, you can use it to like clear the AoE when you're locked into a small position. Even then, that's not something that I would always do, depending on the current build. Her base ability is fine, but with the delay, it's and just in general, her base ability is good. Getting out of like everything, no questions asked, with a fairly low cooldown is pretty good. But she just doesn't offer anything else that's even on par with Jinx, and Jinx was considered weak. Even like compare her ultimate to Seraphine. Seraphine ult is a complete screen clear. Allows you to get out of everything. Meanwhile, Aurora ult just locks you in place, can clear, but like it's not good. And their base abilities both effectively do the same. It's just that Seraphine's doesn't make you immune and has a bit more cooldown. Instead, it gives you and your allies a shield. And she just, I mean, I like how her base weapon works, but she's just not good. She's decently fun, just not good. Lastly, we have Yasuo. He goes 0 to hero like no other character. He has by far, I think, the weakest first like 5 levels. His ultimate isn't that good. It can be useful, but isn't that good. But once his base weapon is evolved, he is unkillable. You just build crit, build weapons that cause a lot of crits, build bullet count, and absolutely demolish everything. He starts off weak, becomes the strongest champ, period. Like, once you actually get past his early game, he is definitely the strongest. In multiplayer, you don't have to worry because someone's gonna play something else. And in single player, you just have to get past his trash early. Once you get past that, he's completely broken. Now looking at that, I did not expect to put Briar on top of the list, but at the same time, she's the only character that just does not have a weakness. She builds differently than most, but she does not have a weak spot. She never is bad. She has enough damage to deal with everything. She doesn't take damage due to her passive and everything. Yeah, apparently. With this, we have our list of champions. Next up, we got all weapons, pre-evolution and post-evolution. Okay, now we have the tier list on weapons. First of all, we open up with... wait, I should have the names. I should know them. First of all, we open with cyclonic slicers. Must have. There is just no build they are not good in, except for Yasuo doesn't like them, and I'm gonna explain in a second. Yasuo doesn't really like them, and you don't need them in a Riven or Illaoi build. Other than that, you want them pretty much always. And the upgrade, obviously, if you can get towards the upgrade and you have the option between getting this upgrade first or another upgrade first, always take this upgrade. It's amazing. The Bat Blades, literally the opposite. Why would you ever want these? They do no damage. The only time you can ever take them is on the subterranean lab. That's the only place that is like closed off enough for them to even use their bounces. There's too few of them. They don't do enough damage. They don't feel fun. Why? Why do you exist the way you do? Why did you not get buffed? It was obvious on the PBE that these were just bad. There's no reason to take them ever. For the upgrade, it's... yeah, if you already have them, take the upgrade. It's fine, I guess. It doesn't really help, because the only time I would have this weapon is on the subterranean lab, and the upgrade actually matters if you're on the subterranean lab. Other than that, I would just never even have that. The train, it's alright in a pet build. There's a few circumstances where you take it. Wouldn't upgrade it over another option ever. It's fine if you already have it. Obviously upgrade it. It's a damage based weapon, so with the damage upgrade you're most of the time going to have the damage passive. There's no real reason to like upgrade it if you have another option. The bunnies, I would say they are good. If they are offered, take them in certain builds. They are a great defensive weapon. A problem is the upgrade path is duration. Duration doesn't really scale with anything else. And there is just no real reason to like them, or like It's just that most builds don't want duration. That's the problem. They are good by themselves. You're not gonna want the passive that goes with them. However, if you already have the bunnies, always take the upgrade. Whoops. Okay. Always take the upgrade. It's amazing. Just a slow followed by a stun. They have a huge area they build on. You can abuse that very well. It's really strong. The armor, like, do I put that in a must-have? Ooh, that's actually difficult. It's between must-have and a good option. You very often will take armor over other options, and in many builds, this is really good. I wouldn't always take it. I think it's just a good option. The upgrade, take when offered. The upgrade isn't that different. It doesn't make that big of a difference. But this is just good. It's one of the few defensive options. It stuns everything surrounding you. It blocks damage completely. And it's just pretty good. It does a decent amount of damage, not amazing. Mostly the melee builds really like it. So if you play like Leona, Briar, Riven, everyone that's just melee likes it. And sometimes you can take it on the ranged options too, as just an alternative. It's good. Next we got what are you called again? And the Lioness's Lament. Okay. The base weapon's bad. If you already have a cooldown reduction and bullet count build, it's okay. Base weapon's bad. However, if you already have the base weapon, take the upgrade. The upgrade makes such a big difference. If you have the option between this and anything else, take the upgrade. Goes from 0 to hero between base weapon and upgrade. Really strong. If you have the upgrade, if it fits your build, if it is a character that relies on similar stuff. It does good damage against the end bosses. It's not that good against actual swarms. It's usually not evolved by the time you do most of the mid bosses, so it's not that good there. But yeah, if it's like an offer, if it fits the build, it's decent. The boots, Pawprint Poisoner. The problem is it doesn't synergize well. It's a decent weapon. The idea is good. Effectively, it's a singed Q. You have anything that chases you. Pretty much mostly Riven wants it. Nobody else really wants to move enough for those to be important. It's just not that worth it. The upgrade isn't worth it. If you have another thing you can upgrade the other thing. Of course, if you can upgrade this, then do it. But yeah, it's just not that outstanding. Now, the next is literally opposite. If you are playing a character that builds max health, ever take it. If you are playing Briar, if you are playing Ilaoi, if you are playing maybe not Riven doesn't need it. If you are playing Leona, absolute must have for all of them. If you already have it, take the evolution. The evolution makes it so anyone that dies within the thing explodes and then damages everyone around again, which causes chain reactions and usually is enough to wipe out all swarms. The moment it's evolved, it's incredible. If you have enough range or like area size and you have the max HP to get this item, take it. Just do it. Now we have a meddling weapon again. This is the, what's the name again? You would think I know the names by now. Searing Shortbow. It was terrible on the PBE, but they buffed it. It has good range now, and the evolution is amazing. So it's a take when offered. It's pretty decent if you already have like area size. It's really good on Leona in particular. You can take it on a few other champions. For example, Briar is fine with it. A bunch of like even the ranged champions. It's a good option if you already have the evolution requirement. Speaking of, if you have it, evolve it. The slow combined with like the huge area increase that this does, the DPS over time, the evolution is amazing. That turns it from a meddling weapon into pretty much your entire screen is gonna be clear at all times. It's not that broken against bosses. It doesn't synergize with crit, so don't take it in crit builds. But if you have it, take the evolution. Next, this is just a good option. Yeah, and so is the evolution. It's very solid. The static sword just bounces around. The evolution again gives it an AoE effect. It's decent at all times. It helps with bosses. It's not that noticeable, but it's pretty decent. Yeah, it's just pretty decent. Then we have Tibbers. Tibbers is good. It's all right. He helps. If you go for a pet build, take him. If you don't go for a pet build, most of the time you're gonna want something different. If you have a very low damage build like Leona, Tibbers can make up for that. Tibbers can help a lot in low damage builds. He doesn't scale that well, but he has a lot of base damage. So he helps with bosses if you like struggle with bosses in your current build. Pretty decent. Same goes for the evolution. Don't have to take it early. You don't even have to take the passive to evolve him. He's fine without it. It helps. It's not required. He's fine. Yeah. If it is an option, and just take it over like lower tier stuff, and if it fits your build. Then we have the wave clear. It's all right if you have experience. The problem with experience is that it heavily depends on how far into anima you are. Experience when you finish like the story mode, experience is super important. It's really strong during your early phases into hard mode. At that time, it's also amazing to take. Also, if you take it, always evolve it. That evolution makes such a difference, because if you take it, that means you have experience gain turned up, and it's really important in builds where you do that. So if you can evolve it, always do. It makes a huge difference. If you can't evolve it, it's not that impressive of a weapon. It's good. It can save you in a pinch. It's just too long of a cooldown, too unpredictable. It's eh. Then we have the Uwu Blaster. It is a good option. I used to think it's bad, but they, I think, increased its range. It's pretty good now as it is. It scales with everything you have. During story mode, you probably don't want to take it. When you go into extreme, there's a bunch of champions that really want it. You want to have it on Yasuo for like the huge amount of bullets you count. So he can crit more often for his passive. You want to take it on like all bullet count champions like Zaya, on Jinx, on Aurora, on all bullet count champions like it. You can take it on tanks. I wouldn't recommend it. It depends on which build you're currently going for, but it's fine on tanks. If you take it, evolve it. Just do it. It's like up here even. There. If you take it, it should be the first evolution. right after the slicers. Um, and then we have the gauntlet. Why? Why do you exist? It's such a sad weapon. A vortex glove. It's. Why would you ever take it? And why would you even evolve it? It's it's not that it doesn't do damage. It's that it doesn't do damage consistently enough. It slowly surrounds you. You can't really control where the bullets are going. The upgrade doesn't help enough. It should give 3 directions, not 2. Then it would be okay. With 2 directions, it's just not predictable enough. You can't like play around the weapon. It doesn't do damage against a swarm. You can't like play it to kill bosses because you can't predict when it's gonna hit the boss perfectly. It's just not good. I also never see anyone else take it if I go multiplayer. It's definitely, it's actually worse than the Bat Blade somehow. Not because it does less damage, it's because it's just not consistent, it's not playable. You're meant to play around it and you just can't. Then we have Yumi. Yumi by herself is great. Doesn't feel like that when you initially unlock her, but just the fact that she can constantly stun enemies. Once you have some cooldown reduction, you can have multiple active at once. She grabs experience, which helps early on. She doesn't fit every build. If you have like high bullet count builds, she doesn't help. But if you go for she is the reason to go for a pet build. If you play like a tank and you decide you want to go for a pet build, she's the reason to do so. You play around Yumi, then you take Tibbers on top of that, have something defensive like the slicers or some other defensive option, and you just play around Yumi. So Yumi is pretty much the reason to go for a pet build. The evolution isn't that important. It only gives like mild improvements. It's just health pickups. It's not that important. It can help if you're lacking damage, but usually in Yumi builds you do not lack damage. Next up we got the Animines. What a silly name. They are acceptable. They just drop a ring of like explosives around you. It doesn't do that much. It's like lagging behind you. It's like a worse version of the slicers, just strictly worse version of those. Like they practically are meant to do the same thing. They just do it much worse. If you already have it, take the upgrade. That makes them decent. Before the upgrade, they are barely worth even having. Yeah. And they just exist. Can you go there? Then we have the Battle Bunny crossbow. This one is hard to rank. It's good on one champ and one champ only, and that's Yasuo. Yasuo loves it because it crits so many targets all around, but I can't give it a high tier just because of Yasuo. It's fine. I don't like it even on other bullet count champions. It's unpredictable. It's like bad for the same reasons that the Vortex Gauntlet is Vortex Glove is bad, but it's not as bad as the Vortex Glove. It's mid-tier. Take the upgrade if you already have it. It's like, I mean, it's definitely better than any of these down here, I guess. I do like I want to give the Annihilator a higher tier, but I just can't because there are many builds and many times it's just not that good. But yeah, it's definitely better than everything down here. I would give it, yeah, like I have the bottom of take when offered. It's better than the options below it. Then we have the anti-shark sea mine. It's good. It's a very solid option. If you are not going for a bullet count build, it's almost always good. In a bullet count build, you're usually just it's a wasted slot, kind of. But on any other build, it's really good. And if you already have it, evolve it. Oh my god, please evolve it. If you have it, do evolve it. Like it's like up here for the evolution itself. That thing changes so much based on the evolution. Oh my god, please do evolve this thing. Um, then we have another of the greats of all times, the boomerangs. They go into must have as the third like base weapon up here, even though the base weapon isn't that strong, but simply because the evolution is that strong. Oh my god, please take it and evolve it every time. Sure, it's better in bullet count builds. It's amazing on Yasuo. I wouldn't take it on Briar in particular. I wouldn't take it maybe on Leona. But outside of like the full tanks, like specifically Briar and Leona, outside of those two, everyone wants it. Even Illaoi, I would take it because they have just more range than the slicers, and it's a really good option instead of the slicers for Illaoi. Simply because Illaoi just has such a big zone she doesn't fulfill. So yeah, except for Briar and Leona, I would always take this. It's just a must-have. I don't see a reason to not have it. And we finish off with this code. I never take this. The Bunny Mega Blast. It's okay, I guess. It's like top of this tier. If it is an option, take it. You're outside of Yasuo just never gonna have like a crit build. Like Yasuo is the main crit build, and outside of that you just don't have crit builds that often. And if you don't have a crit build, it's just not that strong. The evolution is fine. It's very meddling. It doesn't feel strong. Maybe it is. It just rarely fits a build. And that's just a problem. It just doesn't fit other builds. On Yasuo, you don't want it because it doesn't shoot enough bullets for it to be worth it. Yasuo is like the bullet hell build. You want to have as many things on screen as you can. Like Yasuo does enough on screen to make my computer ramp up the fans sometimes. And it doesn't fit that build. And there aren't many other crit builds you want to take. So it just never fits. It's decent as a weapon, but it just never fits your build. Guess who forgot to include all of these? For the evolutions of the individual characters, Aurora upgrade is take when offered. Briar upgrade, absolute must-have. Illaoi is a good option. So like how I rank these as like the upgrades. This one, it helps. It makes things AoE again. It's not that important. Briar is like your entire kit revolves around your base weapon already. The stronger it is, the better it is. Take it every time. The upgrade makes things bleed. It gives a huge range increase. It helps. For Illaoi, the big tentacles help with zoning. Decent. Jinx also actually a good option to upgrade, because once you have the thing upgraded, it actually clears waves very well, and you can move a lot with Jinx based on her weapon. Leona upgrade is fine. You don't have to focus on upgrading it. It's gonna get good anyways eventually. Other options she takes are often more important, but it does help. Riven is always a good option to take for the upgrades. Kind of required for late game for her to do her thing. But you don't have to focus on it first. This is pretty much a must-have. Her base weapon isn't that strong until it gets its upgrade. Then you're kind of like zoning everything out. Yasuo is an absolute must-have, like there, must-have. His weapon upgrade is the difference between him being bad and him being broken. The moment you have this upgrade, you can go AFK and win the rest of the round. It's just that strong. And his base weapon doesn't do that much until then. Zarya definitely also like... is it... I'm gonna give it top of good option. It's not quite the must-have that other weapons are, but it helps a lot. And now we have actually all upgrades ranked. I'm not gonna rank the base weapons here because there is no reason to rank them since they're already ranked with the champion. You can't decide them anyways. But yeah, these are the ones you should focus on more. These are the ones you should focus on less. But in general, you should always like have some plan for the base weapon to evolve it, because it's pretty much the one thing you can't control, and it's good on every character. Leona's isn't bad, it's just not a priority compared to the others. The weakest base weapon definitely is Aurora, but you still should focus on it when you already play Aurora. Okay, up next we got passives. Here we go. First of all, we have ability haste. There is almost no build that does not like ability haste. There is one I can think of, which is full tank Leona, because she just does not have active weapons, or like weapons that benefit from it a lot. Other than that, there is no reason to not take ability haste, like ever. Area size is great, but only in certain builds. It's really good if your build has a lot of things that scale with it. If your build just does not have a lot of things scaling with it, why take it? Like Yasuo builds, Zarya builds, Jinx builds, those don't need it. Briar, Leona, Illaoi love it. Like mostly the tanks. Armor is an absolute must-have. There is no champ that doesn't benefit from it, and unlike the other things I'm gonna talk about in a bit, armor never scales down. There is no augment that reduces armor. There is no enemy that penetrates armor. It's just always good. It's always damage reduction. It's by far the most reliable way to survive. If you're taking damage, take armor. You can take it on every champ. It's just the best defensive option. Critical strike chance, if you're going for a very offensive build, it's pretty good. If you're playing Yasuo, it's pretty good. It's not that important, but it always does decent. It always helps. There's an augment that improves it even further. It's pretty good. Damage is it's gonna be controversial. Damage is, I'm gonna put it in situational, because while you are still in the phase of building up during the story mode, early hard mode, it's amazing, and then it just falls off a cliff. It goes from like just take it all the way down to only good for evolving weapons between the start of like the progression and having max anima. If you have max anima, it's only good if you take the weapons related to it. The weapons related to it, there's one good, one bad. So I'm gonna give it situational. 50% is not a lot when you already have like 500%. That's just how it goes. And at the beginning, you only start with 100%. So maxing this out for 150% is a lot. But then later on, when you have 500%, this does not have any impact. So I'm gonna give it situational. It's okay. Next up, we have duration. Also situational. If you have weapons that go for duration, it can be very good. If you have like the pet build, it's good. If you have specific AoE effects, it's good as an alternative to ability haste. But then there's a lot of builds where it's useless. So situational, decent for the evolutions, has a few other synergies. It's okay. I already talked about experience. This heavily depends on your current stage in the game. It does not have many evolution requirements that are worthwhile. It goes from like just take this down to good if offered, and then so like it's very meddling. It is only good if it's like offered as like the first thing you get, and if you have a character like Yasuo, then it's still really good no matter what. If it's like offered at level 10, 15, it's no longer really worth taking often. Health regen, it's a just take this, not because it's that, I mean, it is that important, but it's also, it just has the best weapon related to it that's in the game. Straight up, like, just the best weapon is related to it, so take it. Do it. Now, this one's gonna be controversial. Max health is only good for evolving weapons. You only need it because the Sunfire Cape thing, name, I suck. Where is it? I can't find the name right now. There their names are. The Radiant Field requires it, and it scales with max health. Literally the only reason to take it is that Radiant Field scales with it. It also helps Static Sword, but you almost always also should just take Static Sword only if you already take Radiant Field, most of the time. Static Sword on its own is good, but the way it scales, you usually just want it as an add-on to Radiant Field. So max health, there's a lot of augments that reduce your max health. There's a lot of augments that scale with max health. There's a bunch of stuff. Just interactions with other things in the game make it only worthwhile if you're particularly playing a tank build where you need it. I would never take it on any of the offensive characters. There's just no reason. Movement speed, good if offered. Even if you don't have the weapons, it's still pretty good. It helps avoiding damage. And the weapons related to it are amazing. There is augments that scale with movement speed, a bunch of them actually. It helps with those. It can give damage. It does a lot. It does a whole lot. Now, pickup radius, obviously, it doesn't scale with anything but the evolution of Yumi and the Zaya weapon. It's good in pet builds, doesn't do much outside of that, and yeah, there's not much to say here. It's just, it does not give you any combat power as a passive. Lastly, we have the obvious, like, best augment in the best passive in the game. Why would you ever not take this if you are going for any build that's not full tank, low bullet count? If you have, even if you just take Searing Shortbow, like, it scales with nearly everything. And it is, like, by far the most impactful when you unlock it, and it still stays very good no matter, because, like, an extra shot always scales the same. There's just no reason to not take it, like, almost ever, as long as your build has extra shots. If you have, like, a build that where nothing does get extra shot, or only one weapon, I would forgive you. But, like, most characters just like this. All right, now for the augment tier list. Pretty much the last one. First of all, we have Armor Up. This one is a bit iffy. You unlock it very late. It gives armor based on how often you get hit, and the problem is you just do not want to get hit. And since it gives you armor after being hit, like an instance of damage, and you don't want to get hit more than once, at least in my case, it does nothing, almost ever, because I rarely get hit more than once. If you have a tendency to get hit a lot, it can be better than the alternatives, but this just does nothing. The next one is bite-sized. A bit risky, but it synergizes very well with specific builds. It gives ability haste and movement speed. Of course, the total health loss is a bit risky, but it's really good. It depends on your synergies if you want it. It's a bit risky, but it's good. Bullet Mania. This one I have actually not yet taken, because the only time I've been offered it has been when I've been playing tanks, and most of the augments didn't appear on the PBE. It looks very good. It reduces your damage by 15%, but every 6 level ups you get +1 projectile count. And that sounds insane given certain characters. It's definitely, assuming you have a character that can make full use of it, take this. That's completely broken. Having Yasuo with, like, you end often in, like, late game scenarios when you unlock it, because you unlock it this late. You often end, like, at level 40, and if this is, like, the first thing offered, if it's the last one offered, maybe don't, but if this is the first thing offered, you get, like, 5 or 6 extra bullets that in many cases that can double your bullet count for a lot of weapons, even if you already take bullet count and have all the upgrades. This is insane. The next one is Card Collector. It's good if taken early. Not that good if taken late. Can have decent synergies, depends on when you get it. It's not outstanding, it's fine, I guess. Then we have next Celebration. Not worth it, does nothing. You don't level up often enough for that to be worthwhile. It's 8 seconds upon leveling up. You gain a lot of stats during those 8 seconds, but it's not gonna help you with the boss fight. A lot of the times you're not going to have just gotten a level up when you get the mini bosses. If you do, like, a Belveth challenge, you're gonna get the level ups after the challenge, not before it. So very often in critical moments, it just does nothing. There's no reason to take it. Circle of Stats is pretty good. It's nothing outstanding. It's a bit too RNG to go into synergize as well. but it's pretty alright. Critical expansion. Problem being, most crit builds do not synergize with size expansion. So it would be amazing if like the crit items would scale more. Most crit weapons do not scale with size expansion, or like, yeah. So it's alright if it fits your build. It rarely does much. It's better than the last two, so it's fine. Cross country. Very late unlock, but if it's one of the first two offered augments, can scale really well. 60% extra damage when you reach like 20 stacks is a lot, and it's very consistent, and it gives max health as well. It gives area size. If you take it on Riven, you're gonna get like 100, not 100, but I've seen 35 stacks before. This is amazing if you get it early. Death and taxes. It's good. It mostly depends on like where in the game you are. It does a bit of damage apparently, and it drops gold. It is pretty good. It helps a lot over time. For some reason, the wiki claims it does damage. I do not recall the in-game description mentioning that, but I'm gonna trust the wiki here. And just the gold, of course, just buying upgrades. Once you have all the upgrades, you're usually gonna want something else, but I have 100% and I don't have the anima maxed out. So it is probably going to be useful until the point you stop playing. Next is ebb and flow. I do not like the randomness. I don't like either of the random things. If you get like the -50 ability haste at a bad time, you are going to die. Especially if you play solo, especially if it's early game where you just don't have that much unlocked. If you don't have, for example, a lot of like the levels into passive ability haste, you can end up with negative ability haste, and that can just be lethal. If you're like in a crowded area, you suddenly get negative ability haste, you're dead. Why would you take this? Elite Bomber is alright. Take if the other options are worse. It gives you a decent amount of damage against bosses in particular. A bunch of champions struggle with bosses. If you play a character that struggles with bosses, take it. Why not? It helps. Next we have Emotional Support Pet. If your build is a pet build, this makes the build really good. This is like, it gives you so much damage because it's not based on your damage, but it's based on the pet damage, and your pet does more damage, and that damage is based on your damage. So it's a flat 50% no matter how much damage you already have. And if you go this, or if you get this early, go for a pet build with it. It's gonna be fun. Tibers is suddenly gonna clap bosses like it's nothing. And Yumi can just deal with everything else. Then we get Experienced Fighter. This synergizes surprisingly well because unlike level ups, you're most of the time gonna pick up some experience orbs. It maxes out at 100. And for some reason, Wiki doesn't mention it, but I know it maxes out at 100 because I have had that. It's really good. You're most of the time gonna have at least a few stacks of this, and it's pretty good damage, up to 200%, and the movement speed helps. And with the more movement speed, you pick up more experience orbs faster, and it's just good. There's nothing much else to it. Gathering speed, it's decent if you get it very early. It synergizes well with other things, but if you get it late, it's not that good. And there's alternatives usually that are better. And yeah. Then we have Glass Cannon. This is hard to decide between these three. It's okay. The max health cost isn't that much of a problem for most characters. The 40% just aren't that impactful. I'm gonna give it better than some of the options, but it's definitely bottom of this list. It's not that important. Early game, you're often gonna take it because the alternatives are bad. But yeah, it's just 40% damage, lose 30% max health. That's not that great. It's fine. Then we have Heavy Hitter. This depends on your build. Most builds are gonna avoid it at all costs. If you in particular have a build that just does not need ability haste, like again Leona, because Leona doesn't need ability haste, take it. It's good in those builds. But 50% damage is not worth losing 30 ability haste most of the time. Next we have Hoarder. For each gold you pick up a heal. Does nothing. If you already have Death and Taxes, it can help a lot. If you do not have Death and Taxes, a lot of the time it just doesn't do much. So it needs Death and Taxes to do anything. Other than that, it's pretty much useless. Immobile Immolation. Avoid. If you have a build that wants to stand still, the risk is not worth it. You're gonna lose a lot of HP for no reason, and the gain is not good enough. Like, you're just gonna drop down, and most of the time you want to move. A lot of the other augments are built on moving. Why would you take this most of the time? Like, you lose 60 health when most of the champions max out below 2000 per 0.5 seconds for what? 20 ability haste? And sure, it stacks up. But like, it's just not good enough, no. Just avoid this. I would not take it. Now we have Juggernaut. This is amazing. It gives armor, which is like already one of the best scaling stats. You want to have armor in most builds, and you gain damage for each armor. So like, it's just good on good on good. You already want to have a lot of armor because it is such a good stat, and then you gain damage for having more armor. So yes, always. There's almost never an alternative over this. Larger than life, gain max health at the cost of movement speed. This is situational, but when the situation allows it, actually this should also be here. When the situation allows it, it's good. It's really good in that case. If you play particularly Leona, Briar, and Ilaoi, like the usual suspects of being situational, it's really good because they scale of max health more than they scale of movement speed. Other champions can't lose the movement speed. 15% movement speed is a lot, and that hurts. Especially since it's total movement speed. Long range is fine. If the other options are worse, take it. It does damage depending on how far away an enemy is. It's 30% extra damage. That's not that much usually. It's good on Yasuo because he has such a big zone he controls. It's good on Jinx because of her penetration and how far her attacks go out late game. It's not. It's also good on Zarya, but a lot of the other ranged champions do need to clear out closer zones, so it's okay. A metabolic overdrive is the reason for the existence of this last area. It is really strong during story mode. During story mode, it's really strong because things just don't do enough damage yet anyways, so it makes everything super forgiving. And it is also really good on specific shield champs. So if you go Riven, it can be incredibly good because it forgives any mistake. Like it removes any punishment for running through enemies and your shield dropping. It's really good on what's on Seraphine, because her abilities are made to like buy you time with the shield, with the ultimate that blocks everything, and every time you use an ability it lets you heal up again, so it's kind of a saving grace for her. It's okay on Aurora sometimes. It depends on your build in that case. And yeah, situational. There's sometimes you want it. You, for example, also then don't want it if you're fighting Aatrox, because Aatrox just does too consistent damage and some of his hits are just too big for you to take this. Especially, for example, in his second phase, after you kill the pillar, if you do not escape the circle in time, for whatever reason, that's immediate death with this thing. You're just going to die. Because he can just over damage you so hard. And certain other enemies can too. Mission critical. It synergizes really well in crit builds. Obviously, if you do a crit build, take it. If you don't do a crit build, don't take it. Yeah. Sure. It's not situational because it doesn't hurt you that much if you take it in a wrong situation, but like, yeah, it's fine. Pescatarian. This is amazing if you struggle with health. It's less synergy, but like, take if the other options are worse. Actually, it's not synergy, but like, it's better than take if the other two options are worse. You usually want it over those. It's just like, if you ever have a build that does not have passive health regen, or if you need more health in general, or you fight a boss that does a lot of like damage in small increments and summon stuff, it's really good. For example, it helped me against Belveth when I was playing a defensive champion, where I went out of the circle to heal up with the drops from the smaller enemies, and then went back into the circle and stuff like that. It's decent. Pick me up. It is almost never bad. 15% extra experience is often enough for you to max out your level, and not having to worry about picking up drops helps a lot. Of course, it makes you like it makes your power level more of a staircase, because you're going to miss out on immediate drops, so your level ups are gonna be more staggered. But that's worth it for the extra experience, for not having to worry about things. It's just good as it is. There's almost no build you don't want this in. Point blank is the worst opposite of long range. If you don't want to have enemies close enough for this to trigger, so why would you want to take this? If you have to take this, you're already doing it wrong. Ramming Runner, by far the best damage augment in the game. By so far. This thing is absolutely ridiculous. When you initially unlock it, it's not that good yet, because you unlock it very early and you don't have a lot of the scaling things. But later on, this straight up gives like 200 damage %. Sometimes more. This thing is absolutely ridiculous. There's barely ever any reason you don't want to take it. The only time you don't want to take it is if you have like the what was it called again? Overhealth? No. A larger than life, where you have movement speed down. This is the reason why the scaling movement speed is still good. Like, yeah, this is probably potentially the best augment, period. So Ramming Runner, yeah, this is like probably better even than this. Is often doubles your damage, period, like overall. Not just like some damage % on top of damage %, just double damage. Regenerative Tissue. I'm not sure actually. This is a very late unlock, like very late. And I'm not certain if the health regen is permanent. The wiki isn't clear on that. The in-game description isn't clear on that. I have taken it once. I do not know. I don't know. If this is permanent health regen, it should definitely be like up there in Synergize as well. But I don't know. It's unlocked so late into like the progression, when you pretty much already have everything else, and it doesn't show up that often at that point because there is now so many augments. I don't know. Couldn't tell you at the moment. Size Scrambler. Random chance again. Not worth taking, ever. Area size minus 20% wouldn't be that big of a problem, unlike cooldown reduction. The downside here is, why bother? Like this thing, why ever bother taking this? Area size can be nice, but champions that want area size should take it through other means. There's no reason to take this ever. Then we have Spray and Pray next. I have not gotten that yet, but depending on the champion, it's not quite as good as the other option. But it at the very least is at the top of Synergize as well. I'm not sure if it should be always taken. Obviously only in like bullet count builds. But +4 projectile count is a lot. 35% reduced damage is also a lot though. But honestly, I think it's good enough to be up here, even though you unlock it so late. Ultimate Speed Up. This is just good. Take it. If you don't have anything else that like stands out, it's like in your synergies, and if your champ has a good ultimate, like if your champ is who needs it at the most? If your champ is Briar, if your champ is if your champ is Riven, if your champ is maybe Jinx even, if your champ is Zaya, if your champ is Seraphine, like if it's Illaoi, most champions like it. It's not worth it on Yasuo because his ult already doesn't have a cooldown. Aurora, I never used the ultimate. But yeah, everyone other than those two wants that. Definitely worth taking. Uptime upgrade. there's too few builds that need it. It does nothing in most builds. If you have a build that's like a pet build where you have additionally to the pets like battle bunnies and stuff like that, and maybe you're playing Ilaoi, an Ilaoi pet build, then sure. Other than that, blah, there's nothing in most cases. Lastly, with haste is better than a few options. So yeah, that's my last tier list, I believe. I have done all of them, or at least everything that I see reasonable, because those are the choices you make. The passive upgrades from in-game are not that worth talking about. I can give a quick order to what I would do here. One moment. If you go through upgrades here, the order I would go for here is you want gold first. As you can see, I don't have anima power finished yet. Gold is definitely one of the best ones. Get that in a reasonable manner early on. Always get like the super cheap ones. If something costs like 400 or 500, just take it. Everything under 1000. Experience should be maxed out early. Ability haste should be maxed out early. Damage gets too expensive, but you want to at least have like 5 or 6 levels in this early on. Armor, once again, is actually not that important early on, but it should be maxed out reasonably early. Movement speed, you need at least 2 or 3 levels. That's also something. Next to experience, you need at least 2 or 3 levels early on. Your starting movement speed in story mode is so bad. Get that. You should have 1 or 2 levels in pickup radius. Not worth going further than that for a long time. Area size duration are nice. Depends on the champions you like. Not that important. Critical chance you should get once you unlock it. You unlock it very late compared to other passives or other upgrades. But once you get it, you want it because then you can play Yasuo better. Those 20% matter a lot, even on characters that don't have many crits. Definitely worth taking. Obviously, projectiles, once you unlock it, get that. It's really good. The second upgrade is very expensive at 10,000, but it could be worth just saving up for those 10,000. That's just really good. Boon duration, the first one, yes. The second one was one of the last ones I took. At least one upgrade helps a lot to like extend it enough to take the boons into boss fights often. The second one makes a big difference, but it's not that important compared to other things. And pickup radius doesn't matter. Max health, health regen, whenever you have leftover, put them in here. Health regen was actually the last thing I maxed out. No, the last thing before boon duration, because it has 6 levels, or no, 5 levels, and the last one is very expensive. But at least 3 levels early, the last 2 just take whenever. Max health is important if you like to play the tanks, not as important otherwise. I mostly like the more aggressive characters, which probably was shown in all of the other tier lists, so max health was one of the later things that I upgraded. Especially since early on, most of the early unlocked augments give you health reduction. So you take on more max health and then you reduce it again to minimize its effect. So there's no reason to have it early on, in my opinion, at the very least. And with that, I have given a ranking to everything there is in Swarm. This has taken a lot longer to record than I expected. Let's see how the editing process is gonna look. I expected this to be like a 20-minute, 30-minute thing at most. It's been an hour and 15. if you actually are somehow still here in this probably way too long video, I don't know. I want to figure out what happens if I say like and subscribe. Oh, wow. I don't know. Have a good day. I really want to hear other opinions on all of this because this obviously is very opinionated, and I'm out.